Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Nicole Gitsky. Well, for the 7th consecutive day, demonstrators took to the streets of downtown Bakersfield protesting the death of George Floyd. It started with a candlelight vigil and prayer for George Floyd outside Bakersfield Police Headquarters. Organizers Joseph Castro said he and his faith group, United We Stand Bakersfield, wanted to convey a message of unity.
We take a moment and have a moment of silence and remember why we're doing this, and bring in the community, the protesters coming over here and taking a knee, putting their signs down. It was just amazing. It was a blessing to see.
Another group called The Next Step led at least 100 people in a march around downtown before returning to the BPD building.
I don't know why the color of my skin gives people the reason to hate me. And if you don't see my skin, you don't see who I am. You don't see my culture, you don't see my history, you don't see my music, you don't see my dance. You don't see anything about me.
BPD says other protests happened on Buena Vista Road and at the Mesa Verde Detention Center. Now, both ended without any incidents. Meanwhile, the department is on rumor control. Now, BPD says they have been seeing posts going around on social media warning about possible riots or looting in certain neighborhoods or businesses. The department says none of those rumors have been true. BPD acknowledged that there have been break-ins and stealing, but it has no evidence those suspects are linked to any of the protests. Plus, it has already made several arrests. BPD says if you are ever doubting something you see online, just ask them to check it out and don't share it if you don't know whether it's real. All right, now to the latest on the coronavirus here in Kern County. Public Health confirms 72 new cases. Now that brings our total to 2,544 people who have tested positive for COVID-19. 45 people have died from the virus. More than half of the victims were living in a local nursing home. 57 people are hospitalized for COVID-19. Over 1,700 people have recovered from the virus. More than 28,000 tests have come back negative, and more than 885 tests are still pending. Well, the concern we keep hearing is how large the police brutality protests could affect the fight against COVID-19. At yesterday's public health briefing, Matt Constantine commented on the prospects for a spike in COVID cases locally.
As we have said with all types of activities, wearing a face covering is strongly recommended, especially when you can't keep that distance. So it will be interesting to watch as different industries open up, and if the protests have any impact to our numbers. But it's a good reminder that we all need to be cautious no matter what our daily activities are.
It takes anywhere from 2 to 14 days for an infected person to exhibit symptoms. Constantine also said if there is another outbreak, it could impact the progress that Kern County has made in reopening the economy. And a local healthcare facility wants to help out people struggling in isolation during the pandemic. Bakersfield Behavioral Health Hospital gave away goodie bags containing activities for people of all ages. The facility says it will help keep families engaged while the stay-at-home orders continue.
Bakersfield Behavioral is here for our community. We are a privately owned hospital that has been a part of this community for over 5 years now, and we are just thrilled that we have the opportunity to provide a service to the community that helps benefit them and their mental health.
Now, that happened this morning. Anyone could drive up to pick up their care packages. They have held 2 giveaways before, and these packages tend to run out fast. Well, 2 people who were killed in a late-night car crash in Bakersfield have now been identified. It happened at around 11:15 last night. CHP says 24-year-old Leilana Bautista and 23-year-old Edgar Martinez were killed after a driver on Ming Avenue lost control and crashed into a fence at the intersection on South Union Avenue. Now, CHP says they were not wearing their seatbelts and were thrown from the car. Both of them were pronounced dead at the scene. Now, it's unclear if either of the victims were driving. CHP says it's possible someone else drove the car but ran away after that crash. Now, that investigation is still ongoing. Well, the Sheriff's Office had its first river rescue of the year. The department says its search and rescue personnel were called to campground north of Kernville after 2 people were stranded without life vests on the opposite side of Kern River. KCSO used a boat to reach the pair and brought them back to safety. KCSO says it's their first rescue and they would love if it was their last. They asked everyone to monitor conditions around them and always wear a life vest. Well, Garces High School has apparently dismissed a theology teacher after more than 100 students, parents, and alumni signed an online petition complaining that he's been spreading, quote, unacceptable messages of ignorance and hate on social media and in the classroom. Garces High School teacher Tim Gordon has some strong opinions about Black Lives Matter, about sexual orientation, about violence, and it seems to have cost him his job. But this week, his particular lens offended a substantial portion of the Garces community and apparently got him fired. Bakersfield attorney H.A. Sala, who has one daughter at Garces and another entering in the fall, was one who complained to the Garces administration. He says Gordon is no victim here.
That suggested that he advocated the use of deadly force against someone that basically is committing an act of vandalism. There can be no other interpretation. And there were other tweets that he issued that supported that, the use of lethal force in circumstances where it was not justified to defend the life of someone or the life of others. It was very clear in those tweets. And a tweet where he clearly denigrated the sexual orientation of individuals, and denigrated in that tweet the Black Lives Matter, and so the tweets spoke for themselves.
Gordon established a GoFundMe page that at last check had tripled his $10,000 goal, which with nearly 500 donors. Now, we reached out to Timothy Gordon and 2 of his supporters, but got only one response. That was a bounce back from the email address listed on that GoFundMe page. Well, this morning, the Fresno Diocese Office of Education has released a statement regarding the social media post. It says in part, Mr. Gordon is not authorized to speak on behalf of the Diocese of Fresno or Garces Memorial High School, and neither the Diocese nor Garces Memorial High School condones Mr. Gordon's recent postings. The local church says someone defaced a statue of Christ on their property, the St. John Evangelist Church in Wasco. Now, it shows the head and arms removed from its Sacred Heart statue. The social media post says it happened around 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Law enforcement is investigating. Now, in a Facebook Live video, the church said they will also be reviewing their surveillance video. Well, the United States Department of Agriculture announces CityServe as a regional community of faith and opportunity. This appointment gives CityServe custom technical support and access to additional resources that will help with opportunity, wealth creation, and asset building. The support will help improve the community through the network of churches. Now, CityServe has been working with farmers to families to distribute food boxes to families impacted by the pandemic. Well, the Bakersfield Fire Department welcomes 20 new graduates. This morning, the fire department held a recruit academy graduation ceremony. The BFD chief says this is an exciting event for the new recruits and the community in general, especially during these difficult times. He believes this is a time more than ever that we need people like these new recruits, more public servants helping provide safety to the community.
What it means is that we keep each other safe, that we care about community, that we're about Bakersfield. And by watching these graduates come in, and they're so excited to serve this community, we should all be about community.
Discharge the duties upon which...
Graduates we spoke with said training was a grueling process, but called it a huge honor to join the department. The fire department says the new recruits will be sent to training stations where they will continue to refine their skills. In Minneapolis Thursday, family, friends, and supporters joined together to honor George Floyd. His death and others have sparked a nationwide call for reform. Camila Bernal is in Minneapolis with the latest on this story.
George Floyd was remembered Thursday in Minneapolis at the first of several memorials planned in his honor.
When you spoke to George, they felt like they was the president. because that's how he made you feel.
At one point, attendees standing in silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the same amount of time one officer kept his knee on Floyd's neck as he died. Video of Floyd's death while in police custody has sparked nationwide protest and a broader discussion about the inequalities of race in America.
Not two justice systems in America, one for Black America and one for white America. What we endeavor to achieve is equal justice for the United States of America.
Meanwhile, the 4 former Minneapolis police officers present at Floyd's death have all been arrested and charged. Derek Chauvin charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. The 3 others charged with aiding and abetting Chauvin. Minnesota officials acknowledge the case will be difficult to prosecute.
It's very difficult to hold the police accountable even when there's a violation of law.
And Reverend Al Sharpton said the push towards equality will continue.
You changed the world, George. We're going to keep marching, George.
In Minneapolis, Minnesota, I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
Nicole, here's a look at the almanac. Yesterday, our high, 103. We will not be reaching those temperatures today. And overnight this morning, we were at 71. The record on this date, 108, set back in 1981. And you can see we've seen clouds pretty much all morning. Heading into the afternoon, we'll continue to see the same. It's all because of an area of low pressure to the south near the Baja Peninsula, and it's driving these clouds from Southern California. We may see a little bit of moisture as we progress here into the afternoon as well, and a chance of a thunderstorm is in the forecast. 80 in Sacramento, 89 in Fresno today, 70s down to the south. Phoenix still hot at 105. The beaches, a little bit of drizzle can't be ruled out. Temperatures today will be a little bit cooler in the mid-60s. A west wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Once this low exits, we will see some ridging next week, and that means a warm-up. But in the short term, heading into the weekend, we get the cooler air behind this, and I think you're going to like the extended forecast. Now, the breeze is also going to pick up, as you can see here, throughout the afternoon hours. It will start to relax by late tonight into early tomorrow morning, but definitely a breeze is expected. So the weather headlines, mostly cloudy for today, a chance of an isolated thunderstorm. Skies will clear out Saturday morning, and then the mid-90s will return next week. Air quality today will be good with an AQI at 46, and here's a look at our forecast. We go from 103 yesterday to 89 today in Bakersfield, 88 in Delano, 86 in Taft, Maricopa at 85 for the mountains in the Kern Valley. Slight chance of a thunderstorm, and 71 in Frazier Park, 76 in Tehachapi, 80s for Lake Isabella and Kernville, 90 in Weldon. And then for the desert, mostly cloudy, 83 in Mojave and 95 in Ridgecrest. So Ridgecrest still a little bit on the warm side. Your extended forecast, 83 tomorrow, 75 on Sunday, and then we see the warm up by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those 90s will return. For the mountains, a beautiful weekend, just a little bit on the breezy side. Sunday, a high of 58, and then we'll be back into the 80s next Wednesday and Thursday. The Kern River Valley forecast, 73 Saturday, 66 on Sunday, and then, big warm-up from 66 to 92 next Wednesday. That's a look at your forecast. Back over to you.
Thanks, Kevin, for that. Well, warm weather is here, and that means cooling centers in Kern County are getting ready to open back up. Starting Monday, June 8th, the cooling centers will be ready to open. Cooling centers will be open in the San Joaquin and Kern River valleys when the temperatures are forecast to be 105 degrees or higher. They will be open in the desert areas when temperatures are forecasted to be 108 degrees or higher, and in Frazier Park when temperatures are forecasted to be 95 degrees or higher. Now, those centers will be open from 1 to 8 p.m., but it looks like it will still be a while before we see those kinds of temperatures. In your 17 Business Watch, the May unemployment numbers are out. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the May unemployment rate was over 13%. Now it's down from April's unemployment rate, which was 14.7%, and the new numbers are much lower than the fears of nearly 20% unemployment. The U.S. added 2.5 million jobs in May, a sign that the impact from coronavirus is easing. The Bureau says employment rose sharply for leisure and hospitality jobs, along with construction, education, health services, and retail trade. Well, warn letters released yesterday show that businesses in Kern County are still making cuts as the coronavirus pandemic drags on. Enterprise Holding announced layoffs for some of its workers across the state. Western Dental, C&J Well Services, and KVS Transportation all announced that workers at each of these companies would be impacted. Now, we have a full list on our website, KGET.com. Well, included on that list of warn notices we received yesterday was the Golden Empire Transit System. The warn letter stated that 37 GET bus workers would be impacted. We have since heard from GET bus officials say that those layoffs happened back in March, and since then, they have hired back nearly all of the employees that were furloughed. Well, right now, Governor Gavin Newsom is set to speak live. Now, he is talking about racial justice and inequality. Let's take a listen in.
Young people around the police officers' memorial that were cleaning up graffiti. A young girl, quite literally with one lung, that outlasted all of us as she was scrubbing away for hours and hours and hours. No one asked her to do it. It was just an act of random kindness and a recognition that her community was being impacted and her life and her future impacted by the moment. And she wanted to impact the community in a positive way. She, by the way, was also part of the protest the night before, but didn't like certain aspects of what she saw. I had the privilege of also working not only side by side with her, but with Stevante Clark, a well-known activist here in the Sacramento region, who also was working to clean up graffiti on the side of a state building. Both of us turned our heads to the right, and randomly we saw a member of our National Guard put down his weapon, unbeknownst to the two of us and others, and was scrubbing side by side with others, graffiti off the side of a building. I had the chance to fly down to South LA, in the center of so much of the violence and protests and outrage in 1992. Went down with County Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas. Went down with the chair of our budget committee, Senator Holly Mitchell. Met with members and leaders in the community, just randomly walked the streets, checked in on how people were feeling. None of the protests, none of the violence manifesting down in South LA. We talked about why that was the case. We learned about the history of institutional building, not just physical infrastructure, but human capital, human infrastructure. The resolve that people had to never again see what occurred in 1992 occur again in South LA. The chance to visit.
Now, that is Governor Gavin Newsom speaking right now about the racial injustice happening. Now, you continue watching Governor Newsom's whole live stream on our Facebook page and on our website, KGET.com.